Well, hello everyone. It's like you say, talk about ladies and guys. It is like of the class. It is that I talk about right here. I just say the word class. It is, and basically the way I drew right here is some examples of some class. It is basically that this will be like me right here, and basically though that you have right here is me, and you see right here is I went and drew right here of an example right here of me, and if I were to be sitting right here on my, it's like on the desk it is, and it'd be like say with all rest of the other people say in the class it is all these other students it is, and basically though that the whole part about this coloring activity right here is basically talking about the details right here. The details that I would have put in right here is for right here me and if anybody that knowing about that if you're kind of if we were to be taking any type of online classes it is that basically that got right there is a little see here, and then plus a few art supplies it is like if we're going to be going to class it is if most of us can remember about stocking up on a few school supplies it is. And basically, though, with these supplies, I just got crayons here, but if most of us are familiar with like what you call like a program, such as like maybe Photoshop or something like that. But anyway, that if we would look at me right here, and let's just say if that this was right here was me, and with me that I could be in class right here, maybe working on something it is. And basically, though, that a lot of times that with most online students, if it's students online, or if it's and maybe inside of an actual classroom, it is that we may think about had that nervousness of showing them like that you show up for class, and let's just say if there's other students in the background, it is, and I can tell anybody here that knowing about between shyness and then walking into the classroom, and then you do your work, and then everybody else starts doing their work, and then sometimes if you were to, especially if you were to walk into the classroom, and then they would be working on a test, an assignment, and maybe if you don't know the answer to etc., that you kind of feel nervous about. Well, I don't know the answer to this problem, and sometimes a couple of times when I was in class too, that couple times that I would kind of feel embarrassed just to get up, from my seat, get up from my desk, just to walk up to the teacher, just to ask a question. It was, and I would do right here's an example right here of a teacher's desk, but I drew these examples right here, and I can go ahead and use, say, a variety of colors. I can go ahead and use right here, maybe a little bit of the pink. I think this is a raspberry, or finger. I think Tinger Me Pink or something like that, the type of pink color. But I can go ahead and use a little bit of pink right here for the hair. Like I went and drew example if this classroom were to contain a variety of men and women, or if it's girls or boys, it is between 18, 19, 20 years old. It is maybe 30, 40 years old. That did you have right here is a classroom at about with about at least maybe 25, 30 students. And I went ahead and drew the way I went and drew this classroom right here. I could have maybe added more details to it, but talking about that to see what I can do about that, showing some examples right here. I can just work with one color here, but I got a variety of colors too. I got see yellow. I can add a little bit of yellow right here, but let's just say that if most of us kind of get my point, I like talking about it, I can move on. But anyway, that you have right here of a number of students, and if you're going to be in the classroom with a number of students, it is that a lot of times that if you were given an assignment, or if you were taking a test on something, that more likely that there will be students in the classroom that would kind of look at you, kind of interesting, or look at you kind of weird. And a lot of times, though, and I can tell anybody that whenever I was in middle school, a lot of times, even in a special education class, that a lot of times that sometimes the kids would kind of look at me kind of weirdly. It is, and that you had that shyness, of course. That I hear anybody probably think about a few people that I talk to, that I used to talk to and used to be friends with, that a lot of times that they usually say that well, they were shy, that's why that they didn't really talk to you too much, or they were nervous or that they were afraid to say something, whichever it is. And I kept thinking about, hey, I thought maybe I was the one who was afraid to talk. I thought I was the one who was afraid to say something, whichever it is. But and more likely, anybody that made a thing about what would you say? Like, well, nice, I don't know, lip gloss or anything like that. Nice lip gloss, but I would probably say that, hey, I like that's a cool, nice looking jacket that you got on or something like that, or anything like that. But a lot of things that I said in class was like, to other students, such as, you look tired. I think a couple of them, even said that they were tired, and like, well, you look tired or something like that. But on the other hand, that they had these example, these other students right here. What these other students could contain, a variety of, say, boys and girls, and of course, men and women it is, and knowing about that they are in class it is, and the things that more likely that they will be teaching you in class, and I'm talking about things that could be, I know with technology nowadays, it seems like, technology moves faster, than education, it seems like, but I like, talking about between, like, say, a variety of Apple products or anything like that, or if it's anything related to maybe studies about typical science or, photography or anything like that, that especially with students taking online classes, that the only, really a lot of times the only way that they're able, to communicate a lot of times with each other is by like what you call, by email, do email, or if it's, Skyping together or something like that, and, or if it's, writing, responding to messages online, and, that even if you do go to a classroom, I'm sure that there's other things that relate to, getting used to all the other students, of course, in the class, and, activities that are going on as well. And in a lot of ways that a lot of times anybody probably think about it, it's like with your parents, it is aunt or uncle, whoever, whatever family member that whoever that in your family that more likely that would probably say about that you participate in any events, such as maybe the basketball or the football team or anything like that, or maybe any other type of art activities such as ceramics or anything like that. But typical science, any other activities posted on what you call for the announcements it is. But basically that you have right here is for these students right here, and I can tell anybody here that a lot of times with our name badges it is if there was a few names that were listed. You say on each desk it is. I can remember whenever I was in an elementary school that they were all aligned side by side. They were all kind of facing you say side by side it is. They were not really what you call line from odd and even, or like I talk about, it's like what you call four desks, of course, in a straight line or something like that. But a lot of times though that in classes though that they have it to where they got these desks right here, and I can go ahead and color it in this one right here, maybe with the little gold yellow type color right here. But let's just say that these are a desk right here, and a lot of times if you were to be taking classes online, a lot of times that you would be logged on, a lot of times that they say that you would have it to where if you were to get online, it is that I can tell anybody here, this reminds me of my key typing class, where they teach you how to do some typing lessons, of course, on the computer it is. And they would set everybody up on a computer. We're not talking about only that the teacher would be able to get on the computer. And I can remember whenever I was in elementary school that a lot of times the computer would a lot of times be on the teacher's desk. And a lot of times they're like, hey, can we get on the computer? No. Like, well, I just want to know. But on the hand that you have right here, a lot of times the teachers would have access to the computers at their desk. And a lot of times that their answer a lot of times was like, no, you can't get on my computer. Not even just to get on the email or this, but I can remember that whenever I was in middle school, it was that a few times they let you get on the computers, and then in high school that they would let you get on the computers. But one year at the high school, it was at St. Charles West. I can remember I had key typing lessons, and I can remember all the students were all assigned at their at these computers. Every student would have a computer. Of course, they don't look like the computer nowadays, but they would have these, like, what you call these big monitor screens, it is, and they would have you log on. And I can tell anybody here that like with me though, that I would be one of those students that always, almost, I don't know about every time, it seemed like it was almost every time that I would have problems logging on. And either they changed my password, or if they changed something, if they updated their profile, whichever it was, that a lot of times it seems like that I could not get logged on. And the teacher even tried, and he was like, well, it logged me on this computer. I don't know. I don't really understand the computer myself, teacher, but on the other hand, I think I can remember the teacher's name or something. But anyway, but so far the teacher, though, a lot of times that they say that they go by what you call maybe that, the professors, they say that the instructors it is, faculties it is. But anyway, that you have right here, it's like the details right you're drawing right here is for the students, though. And a lot of times that you have right here all these doors right here. I went ahead and drew some examples of some doors right here, if I could say another classroom. And basically that usually that most classrooms there will be, like, say, a wall at about right here. I can go ahead and just use a similar color, the tickle me pink, tickle. I guess tickle me pink. Looks like it's tickle me pink. But anyway, yeah, it's not that big of a color, but on your hand too, that I'm kind of a weird name for a color. But anyway, go ahead and use this tickle me pink. But anyway, just kind of draw out some examples of you have right here is the doors right here for, say, the split of the classrooms. And with most of the time, though, that we could probably think that most of the time with these classrooms, though, that they would basically be on, like, what you call is like the same team, to where so far as acknowledge about knowing about teaching all the students the basics about what they need to know about the classes and studies that they would be taking. It is, and a lot of times I kept thinking about that whenever I was in school, though, that I kept thinking that my artwork would not be what you call this kind of career, to where that anybody who could draw free-handed, it was about knowing about that any class is more likely that they're only going to maybe earn you a few points or something like that. But I could tell anybody here that I got in a lot of practice at home, and then I kept thinking about, it's that I was good a couple times, and then a couple times I was like, I don't know. I'm like, I think I'm gonna go ahead and maybe write a book or get into acting. I remember I was into acting for a while, until all of a sudden, my road would, say, my major path, I could say, my major kept going back to artwork. And why is it that it went back to artwork? It's just kind of say, it's like they kind of get your mind. It's like if you had the control on what your hand it is. Your basic control over the writing utensil, and just to kind of draw out like a pattern about like what you can picture in your mind for maybe the classroom. At the classroom, they will be teaching you the basics about learning how to use like a certain PC software. It is. You have right here is a person. I can go ahead and draw here is a person inside the classroom right here, and you have right here is the desk, but. Let's just say if there was an actual person right here, that would be like what you call, doing some work. It is, but I'm like, yeah, that person kind of looks like that he or she is kind of what you call, getting frustrated over whatever work that they're doing. It's like, talk about it complicated, and anybody will maybe think about, yeah, if you're going to be in the classroom, they're going to be teaching you some basics about how to do something, such as how to type something, or how to create a PDF file or anything like that. And then knowing about that, I guess we're all going to get frustrated over the fact about either you can't get logged on to the classroom, or if it's anything related to the printer won't work or anything like that. The download is taking a long time. And I could tell anybody here that a lot of times that anybody would probably say that the download a lot of times takes a long time. And on average, if they say that you'll depend on your internet speed, that a lot of times that you basically to say that, well, you know, that's typical that that the download is going to take a long time, you know, to you know, like for your internet speed. And of course, if there's like any type of connection problems, it is, but on the other hand, a lot of times with most of those computer softwares that they say that, well, you know, that this may take a few moments, you know, just to update, you know, for the software it is. But basically, though, this whole part about this activity right here is how about you have right here is a few examples right here of the classroom. It is like you have right here is another classroom, and you have these doors right here. And with those doors, I can go ahead and maybe use, like, say, a blue. It'll just represent, you know, like, say, if they were all coated, like, say, covered, you know, they were these real sturdy glass doors right here. And basically, though, that I don't know about all classrooms. I'm like, that these doors represent, it's like after you pass one course and then you move on to the next course, it is, and then you take whatever course that's available for, like, you know, for any other studies or, you know, anything else that more likely that you'll be working on during class, it is, such as after you pass a course and then you move on to the next course, it is. But you have right here is, like, say, these students right here, and then let's just say if this was right here was me, and a couple times if most of us can remember showing up for class that morning, it could have been those couple years ago, you know, getting off the school bus or taking a taxi or a bus or any type of you say, you know, getting any type of ride, you know, to school was, and knowing about the last thing you gotta worry about is like, well, do I have everything for class? And you know, my hair, you know, maybe a little bit, you know, messy, whichever it is. And then next thing you know, it's like that you show up for class, and then and yeah, that you know, knowing about if you have everything that you need, you know, for your class, it is. And I'm using a variety right here of a marker and of course crayon, but anyway, that you have right here is go ahead and use right here's the green right here. It's like if that was me right there, you know, sitting at my desk, it was, and you know, just kind of listen to the teacher, yeah, and then maybe write down a few notes, and then you know, kind of, you know, sitting, you know, on my desk, you know, with at least, you know, maybe 15 other students, it is. And I could tell anybody here that I'm not used to that. I was not used to, you know, not like I used to be that way, to where that I didn't really like, you know, sitting around other students. It was, you know, what was that reason? Well, maybe because that I kept, you know, I was kind of used to, like I talked about, it's like in my video of talking about, you know, the word shot was, it's basically, I don't know really what these, you know, kids are thinking. And a lot of times I can tell anybody here that I kept thinking about that song. It's like, you know, I wish I could be like the cool kids, wouldn't be like the cool kids. I wish I could be like the cool kids. But like, if you want to, you know, maybe, you know, change the lyrics, it's like, nice if I could be, you know, be like the train kids, or something like that. But yeah, like the train kids, like, nice if I could be like the train kids with the high technical stuff fees, or something like that. But anyway, but you have right here, there's some examples right here of some students, and then I can, like I say, a variety of boys and girls, women and men and women. It is faculty members, it is. And I can just think about that you have these students right here. And a lot of times you're doing the basic work about, and I can tell anybody here, like I said before, about my artwork. It seems like my artwork don't really count, because I kept thinking about, you know, anything that I did freehand. I would even do some of my artwork even during study hall class. And I can remember that once or twice that the kids, you know, I think, you know, we went to lunchtime, and if I can remember right, somebody took either that the artwork that I was working on had fell off my desk, or, you know, somebody took it, you know, because they were interested in knowing about how it was drawn, whatever it was. But anyway, they have right here of these kids right here, these students, and basically, though, with these students that they were all, you know, wonder about that. You know, I see here use a variety of colors, but these students, though, that we would be in the classroom all learning about the same thing. It is given a certain assignment. It is, and a lot of times though that it seems like that either that they would be maybe be looking at you weird, like, well, the teacher had just explained it or something like that. If I can remember right, that I had maybe about a few problems whenever I was in school though about learning and understanding things, reading things. It is, but basically though that some of the kids in the classroom, of course, always wondered, how come you don't talk, man? What's wrong with you? You should have been taking notes or something like that. But on the other hand, that way I think about, like, just draw out, of course, draw out and talk about what I'm talking about here. If you have right here is a full classroom of these different students right here, and they could be thinking whichever. They could be thinking about what they have planned after they get out of class, or they could be thinking about that what else they have to take care of, if they got to take their car in for maintenance work, or if they have to take care of the kids whenever they get back home or something like that, or if they maybe they got to write a paper, if they're going to have homework later on. I could tell anybody here that whenever I was in school, I was that type of person. Like I said before, I think on one of my other videos, I was not that type of person who wanted to do homework. I was that type of person who kind of wanted to get school done and over with. And then right here, I got right here is a writing board, like say of this. But I was that type of person to where that I did not want to sit down and do homework. And now it seems like that with homework, though, that if you're at home and let's just say if you're doing some work related to school, it is such as maybe something that take more time to help improve your artwork. It is such as learning how to use a certain program on the computer related, such as Photoshop, or if it's going to be in the Adobe Acrobat. It is Acrobat and Office Windows, or any programs like that. Like with any students, they may say that homework may be a little bit more exciting nowadays than it was back then, and people may wonder about why do you say that? Why do you say that homework is a little bit more exciting than it was back then? Maybe because that you had gotten a good teacher, maybe your teacher was pretty cool, or is it the fact about the book, the subject, the subject matter is a little bit more interesting than it used to be, or something like that. And I could tell anybody here that one thing that maybe make it a little bit more interesting of talk about maybe that of other materials about that maybe if it's letting the student have that ability to where that they can be creative, or that the type of technology that they're using. And I could tell anybody here maybe anything that uses the internet more likely is going to have it to where anything that uses the internet is going to be maybe a little bit more exciting. And anything that operates by a smartphone or tablet or something like that, I'm like, hey, that's cool, man. But really, anybody would probably think about really, I'm like, well, what exactly do you all mean by cool? Because this is not cool. But I'm like, this is related to my classes. But I don't know why you think this is cool, because that they don't change color or nothing like that. But on the other hand, that anything more likely, anything that you never seen before, or anything that you that may be pretty new to anybody that they may call cool or something like that, or interesting. But I guess anybody, they may use the word cool by the meaning of interesting. And I can tell anybody here, whenever they first announced the internet, though, that it was like, hey, look, you could actually look up the classmates. You have right here, so you got the classmates right here. And then you can go ahead and look it up on the internet. It is, and then basically that when they first announced the internet, I think that would have been about early 1996, whenever Windows 95 or something like that. Windows 95. Whenever I think it was Netscape. I think Netscape or something like that was the first internet browser that they had back then. And I'm like, I don't know, because that was before I had a computer. That was not before my time, but that was I was young. I was young at the time. That was before I was a registered voter, of course. But that was before I even had my own computer. And I could tell anybody here that getting on the computer, I was used to. They had like these other programs that you could buy, like at the electronic store, at the e-store or something like that, e-library, such as the Encyclopedia, Wikipedia. They say you can download Encyclopedia, software programs and stuff like that. Besides the Adobe, where you can look up different things of regions of the world. Say parts of Africa, Asia and Australia, or parts of Europe. Look up different sea animals, whichever it is that you want to go ahead and look up. And I can remember that it's like that my parents and I that we would go up to a computer. It was, I think, even at the library, go to a computer. And then I can remember that my parent, it's like my parents would talk to me about talking about get me signed up on a computer, because it's like both my mom and dad are like that. My parents who had it to where that their jobs that they worked at, that they had it to where that the jobs they worked at, they would allow the students to get on the computer. And if I can remember right, that they would show me how Microsoft Word worked, and then they would also show me about a few other programs that. And I can remember that back then that there was these floppy disks. These floppy disks where they didn't really have it to where you can save it directly to a computer. But I think that they allowed you to save it to the computer, but then they would have to go to work just to print out. And then I remember that people, if I say that was another pain also they had to deal with. But on the other hand too, at least they got some of the assignments that were printed out. But you looked at how to use Word. But then whenever they announced the internet, though, a lot of people would probably think about, what's the internet? What's a smartphone? But really, how are you going to know if you don't do your homework? How are you going to know if you don't pass this course? But talk about right here, so far as introducing, introducing what it calls the Dialato pen. Dialato pen that allows you to what you call to say to do the dance or something like that. It's like so far as something that writes. So far something that writes. You say you can actually sign your name. You can sign your name on this this electronic 3D screen, 4G network screen or something like that. Dialato pen. But anyway. Right here is talk about say with study, and then along with say with class, and then so far with download and install. And I know I may have talked about this before, but like with anybody that talking about say download and install, that basically what it means is I talk about download and installing. And another word talk about is with mistakes. So that talk about is a good meaning for the word mistakes it is. And of course if there's other things related to it assignments it is. But so far as download and install is basically means that files and most of them are files. I could tell anybody here that basically means files from other and they call them e-stores. I guess they say another word for e-stores, electronic stores, from e-stores, e-stores and other internet sites, other internet sites that are installed on own. I'll just say on own. I don't know if I would say yours, mine, and ours or whatever, but so far as to own your personal computer. And basically that And if you use, like, say, public computer, but say, so for a personal, PC, I guess you say PC, for computer, or some that may say on a Mac too. If you're the only one who uses this device here, such as a smartphone, or an e-reader or something like that, a tablet or a Kindle. It is that if you're the only one who uses this most of the time, that they pretty much say that's, you say, a personal device it is. And basically with the program, as like for a download and install, is that so far as copying any data, I guess you say you're copying any data from, you say, that eStore, or if it's that certain application is installing it on your computer. And it's like we'll say with class. So with class, it basically means is that it's like a variety, I could say a group, a group of students, and we're talking about 20 or more. I'll just say 20, a group of students at 20 or more that are studying the same thing, or learning the basics. And so let's say we learn the basics a lot of times, and then so far with study, it's like time, extra time. I could say time, or you say extra time for improvements, for performance, improvements, and basically, though, that they say that if you take time to study, that more like a chance that that maybe you'll do a little bit better in class. It is, and on the other hand too, it's like class, and then so far with mistake though, and I talk about, say, an error, that you say that maybe not everybody's perfect. Not everybody's perfect. And I used to always think that, but on the other hand too, that not everybody not everybody does. I see the right word for life was saying not everybody's perfect, but on the other hand, not everybody misses not everybody misses the most important task. Not everybody misses the most important task. And on the other hand, anybody may think about it so far as mistakes. So if I talk about, it's like when miss a mistake, it is the things that you may have missed. And on the other hand too, that I might talking about, important task. And of course, it also mean that just one little thing, one little, one likely, I'll just say one likely little, part of the work assignment. One part of the work assignment could change. I would say the learning process. Say you learning could change the learning and studying. So far as for improvements. And I used to always think that tell anybody that I'm like, yeah, that say with my handwriting compared if I were to type this on Word though, that I'm like, yeah, that basically the well, if it's a poetry or anything like that, like talking about the few typo errors, and a lot of times if I could be in class, it is class may only last for about maybe an hour, but then they want you to spend 5 more hours at home, or during the weekend it is doing stuff related to class it is, and maybe they want you to maybe push a few buttons on a calculator or a Kindle, or on your laptop it is push a few buttons to study about how this works, what this does, what that does, and stuff like that. But on the other hand too, say so far the word class is basically talking about right here. I could tell anybody here, anybody that may say that proud of you for speaking up, for if you see something that if you tell something, maybe somebody that didn't know about something before in the long run, and then I can do right here, like talk about, I'm sure anybody probably think about, I'm sure it'll probably be coming to where that, they probably already have them to where that, teaching you how to use the basics about, say an e-reader it is, and with most of the kids that are taking online classes though, that they could probably think about, I'm like, that a lot of times that they go by, say, a submit assignment though, if you want to submit an assignment to the teacher, and they have these, like what you call these you see columns it is that you click on it on the top. A lot of times it's the top center, you column it in, and basically you go by, say you'll first submit an assignment, or say the Dropbox, and of course the email it is, and then the copy and paste, or if it's a attached file it is, and a lot of times a lot of that stuff is done on the computer though, but on the other hand that they have it to where they're basically talking about, have, here's a students, a group of about 15 or 20 or more students it is, and just kind of get to know them. And I can tell anybody here that whenever I first would walk into the classroom, that a lot of times though that would have been about back in 2000 though, that a lot of times that it's like talk about, you'll write my name and say on the paper though, but a lot of times that I would tell them that back though in the high school years, I'm like, well, I got my own place, I live by myself, I'm 18 years old, and etc., etc. And after that, the next year was a few of the students that knew me from the last year, but that next year, whenever I went back there at the high school, that they were like, we had a new teacher though, but they were like, okay, well, you turned in this paper, have your parent and guardian, sign this, and like, well, he lives by himself, man lives by himself, and like, are you your own guardian? Okay, well, it's like, that, a lot of the students there in the classroom, of course, knew about that, and I'm like, he lives by himself, or, he has his own computer. I'm like, it could be like, well, he's got his own car, he's got his own computer, he's got his own computer, so he could do it at home or something like that. You could have maybe a few students that may have known you since about the whole quarter, say, of the year it is, and then they may say that, hey, you got your own, you got a smartphone, you got a smartphone, and you can go ahead and look up a word, look up for this word for me and find out what it means or something like that. Or you could have a girl in the classroom that may be like, that they want to go, if you like talking about, hey, how did you do that? But I keep thinking about that. Besides my classwork, though, that I keep thinking that anything that more likely that I do in class it is. A lot of times, a lot of the students would maybe think about that. Hey, what's your name? What's your name, young man, or something like that? Or hey, how you doing, sir? What's your name? What's your major, or something like that? How long have you been going to this class? Something like that. But in a lot of ways, that whenever I would walk into a classroom those couple years ago, that a lot of times that even if I was running a little bit late, a couple of times the teacher had marked me tardy a couple of times. That a lot of times with me, if this was me right here, I'll walk up to my desk, and some of the kids would even give me a hard time about getting to class late. It is. But a lot of times that they would, some of them that may say good morning it is, but then the teacher would want you to pull out an assignment or something like that. But a lot of times though, that a lot of the kids would not really say too much to me, and it was like they don't really talk to me and I don't talk to them, and But the teachers, a lot of times, they want you to kind of keep in touch, kind of talk to the other students and help them out if they're running a little bit behind on their schoolwork or if they don't understand something. But on the other hand, too, the way I would think about it, I might think, yeah, the type of shyness, though, of talking about if you came up with something, if you went home and you spent about 5 hours researching about something it is, a lot of times that they probably say about, well, you can maybe speak up and just kind of tell the class about what you find out. Like, well, that I kept thinking about the teacher was going to say that's not possible because, I'm the teacher and that's not the answer that I came up with. I even looked at the answer column or something like that. But anybody who's maybe having problems with downloading and installing the software, though, that like you say, maybe the teacher would maybe want the students to kind of speak up about a little bit about what they know about the program and maybe that draw here. Like I would hit enter in some details if I had, like would say, it's like a beard or a mustache or something like that. But anyway, to kind of speak up of know about right here. Like I could tell anybody here, that's what I look like whenever I was 25. I think whenever I was 22, something like that. I like talking about. I'm trying to add details of what I look like, and I like, yeah, I could tell anybody here that I did have a beard that grew up to about maybe 1 or 2 inches back then, but then of course I trimmed it out back then too. But even pictures, of course, from a vacation I went to 5 years ago in Washington D.C., and I can remember that I kind of looked like that as well. That had that that brown, that dark brown beard, and I can go ahead and add a little bit of gray right there. But anyway, but talk about it's like anything that's related to operating a scanner, or if it's anything that related to picture taking or anything like that. Talk about here besides coloring by hand it is. And I can tell anybody that anything that you may have learned from over the days and weeks it is like talk about to kind of talk about that with the other students it is. And a lot of times though that I kept thinking about that the students, the teacher's not gonna like me. The students are not gonna like me, whenever I first started, it just seemed like that a lot of the teachers and the students that they were just kind of focused on for however that they wanted to do the work, and they didn't really want to focus on about who did what it is. But on the other hand too, like you may have been a little bit shy at Coursera first, and I can tell anybody here that I was like what you call maybe the one who was maybe shyest, because on the other hand too, I am the one who's talking, and it just seems like that at the IEP meetings that I went to with my parents, a lot of times, as I talk about, you can't even remember, how your last name is spelled. You got to look at your name before you can write down on paper, whichever it is. But on the other hand, that you have right here of like say me example right here of me, it's like inside the classroom, though, and basically though that talk about for what I'm talking about right here of some examples right here of some of the students right here. With these students that they may have, but it's like they may not know too much either, and then they may know a little bit. But on the other hand, yep, that if you may know something that maybe somebody else don't, then say, hey, speak up. Just if you're here, but then you don't say nothing, then how I'm like what other students are thinking? Because on the other hand, that they may say that that. Not everybody that may know the answer. A couple of times whenever I went to a few meetings, though, that now I can tell anybody here. A couple of times whenever I went to a few meetings that they had to where that, especially if it was training or anything like that, and that they would have it to where that with the training that. With these meeting trainings, it is especially over there at work that there will be other students in the classroom that will be talking and then I would be able to say maybe just a little bit a few things it is such as about working say with the customers it is and and then shopping for certain things that they more likely would be interested in, and a lot of times that I only had maybe some time to maybe talk about something that they were talking about, or maybe one or two things, but And I can remember that, one meeting that I was in, and then there would be about 3 or 4 people that would be looking at me while I was talking, and I kept thinking about, like, what are you looking at? I'm like, I'm just talking. I'm not really, I'm not standing up and doing like what you call, goofy move or anything like that. But on the other hand, that you have it to where that some of the students that may look at you while you're talking, it is, and I guess that really means it's like so far as you got their attention so far as attention goes. But a lot of times, though, that I could tell anybody here that I think it's kind of interesting in knowing about how you can get the teacher's attention and how you can get the students' attention is by, they look at you, and really, how do they know that, how do you know if they're really listening to your advice, or how do you know if they're really listening to your suggestions? And knowing about that, here right here is me. I went and put a lot of coloring right there. It's like, say, for my mustache, something like that. But anyway, I'm like trying not to make that look like, say, a wolf face or anything like that. But anyway, that you have right there, if I say it right here of me, and you have right there is basically, though, that the details right there is like for the schoolwork, though. But anyway, I could tell anybody here that I kind of look like that whenever I was young. But then on the other hand, too, that talking about with me, though, that it's like basic studies about that, from what I can. What I can do is like with my artistic skills, it is, and basically you have right here is the classroom details, and so far as say with the work class, so far as you say with the color activity.